Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is finally the day we get to put the new turbo to the test with the dyno. If you've been following along with my build, I previously did the stock turbos on the dyno. A link for that video is going to be in the description below. I also did an install video for my hybrid turbo, the Dynamic AutoWorks Flowmax, and now we finally get to test it out on the dyno. So my mods are going to be in the description below, and huge shout out to my tuner Doug Newton from Subpart Tuning. He's been amazing help and really walked me through this whole tuning process. Couldn't recommend him enough. So before we get into the dyno, let's do a quick recap. Last time I went to the dyno, I made 388 wheel horsepower on pump gas and 458 wheel horsepower on E40. So let's see what we do this time, starting off with pump 93. Kinda hard to see, but we made 461 and 419 torque. And this run we made a little bit less power. Alright, let's take a look at the 93 Datalog. So starting at 2000 RPM, and then we roughly get around 15 pounds of boost at around 3100 RPM, and then it goes all the way up to around 23-24 PSI. Looking at the timing, we're seeing around 8.5 to 4 degrees. So you can see we're getting a little bit of timing correction early on, and then we're getting a decent amount of timing correction up top. And the timing correction we're probably getting is because of the heat. Like you can look at the IATs, we start at 111, and then up top we have around 115, so that will definitely cause some timing corrections. That could explain why the power was a little bit lower on the 93 run. So at this point we filled the car up with E40 and we were gonna go ahead and do our runs, but we kept on running into issues. Take a look. So at this point, the car was hitting some sort of torque limiter and it wouldn't go past 5500 RPM. So I emailed Doug and we were able to figure out the issue. So I'm on a Rod Sutphin transmission tune, and that had some built-in torque limiters that I wasn't hitting on the street. So whenever I would hit them on the dyno, I was confused. So I flashed over to XHP stage 3 and got rid of the torque limiter, and then we were able to do our dyno run. And this is the power we made on our first 5th gear E40 pull, and now let's do 6th gear. As you can see, the car is starting to heat up and we're making a little less power. So this is the pull for the E40 in 5th gear. So you can see that our ethanol content is at 41. We start the pull, it hits around 26 PSI at 3500, and then towards the peak it's at around 32-33 PSI. Looking at the timing, we're getting around 9 to 12 degrees. I saw 13.5 there, and then towards the top 8 to 11 degrees. You can see we start getting a lot of timing correction, and that's probably due to the heat. Let me show you guys the IATs. If you can see, our IATs start at 90 and then they just keep on climbing to over 100. So looking at the rail pressure, I can see that around 6300 RPM we start to dip a lot. Now this is something that I only saw on the dyno. On the street, I don't see this at all, so this is definitely making us lose some power. I talked to Doug, and he said that it could be the dyno loading, but I haven't seen this issue on the street at all. And if you look at the MSV duration after PI, this is kind of like the duty cycle for your high pressure fuel pump, and it maxes out at 126, and you could see that it's not maxing out exactly. So I'm not sure what's going on. It could be the low pressure fuel pump struggling to feed the high pressure fuel pump, but I can't tell since I don't have a low pressure fuel pump sensor. And yeah, here are the final numbers. I think the E40 numbers are lower due to the heat, so I'm gonna give it another try another day. Now this is a week later, and I'm hoping since my car is not heat soaked, it will make some better numbers, but we'll see. Alright, so these are the final results. We did 3 runs. The first 2 runs were on the 33 psi map, and then the last run was on the 30 psi map. On the 33 psi map, we made 581 to the wheels, and on the 30 psi map, we made 575. Alright, so looking at the data log, we can see on 5th gear, we make around 25 psi at around 3500 RPM, and then we make around 33 psi up top. Timing corrections are a little better. There wasn't many in the beginning, but then you could see at around 6000 RPM we started getting around -3, and then after 6800 RPM we got even more. So as you can see, for timing we have around 11-12 degrees, and then up top it's anywhere from 12.5 to 13. So this run is a lot better. For the IRTs, it's a little bit better. We dip down to around 86, and then we peak at around 99. So as you can see, we have a minor rail pressure dip over here. That's not too big, but we have some rail pressure dip at the top as well. Again, this only happens on the dyno. I've never seen this happen on the street every time I've logged. And you can see the MSV duration after PI never goes to 126. So I'm not sure what the issue could be. My suspicion would be the low pressure fuel pump, but that's not for sure. And then also looking at the injectors, so the lower the number, the higher the injector usage, and I think around 55 or 50 is the lowest it goes. So you could see starting at like 6500 RPM, we're maxing out our injectors, so that can also explain the fueling issues. Again, this only happens on the dyno. I have not seen this happen on the street. Alright, so unfortunately we did not make that 600 wheel horsepower number I was hoping for, but it's okay. I still got the times I wanted. I got a 6.86 60 to 130 time, so I'm satisfied with the setup. Here's another car with the same setup I have, and they made 615 wheel horsepower in the CES Motorsport dyno. Another example I wanted to show you was Kern 417. He actually made 640 horsepower, but his 60 to 130 time was slower than mine. This just shows different dynos read different numbers. But another thing I wanted to show was that you can also use this website to estimate your power. And when I put in a street log without any fueling issues, I get around 618 horsepower. So it could be that the dyno's reading lower, or we're just having issues on the dyno. But that's why I like doing both the dyno and the 60 to 130, because they can show different things. Now looking at a log from the street, I can show you guys that I didn't get any fueling issues while I was on the street. So you could see we don't get any rail pressure dips. And then looking at the injectors, we're well above that 55 to 50 number. So we're not maxing out the injectors on the street either. And this is the run that got the 618 horsepower. Yeah guys, but this is it for this video. Unfortunately, we didn't break that 600 wheel horsepower number, but that also technically means that the series is not over. I'm going to see if I can maybe upgrade my fueling or my intake or my exhaust just so I can get over the 600 wheel horsepower number. But for right now, I'm going to enjoy the setup like it is, and thank you so much for watching.